everybody. My name is Noni Mugara, and welcome to yet another episode of the Plunge Podcast. This is episode 3, and we are here to deep dive into conversations that need to be had around personal growth, healing, and transformation. So, for today's episode, I want us to chat about how to move on from relationships that no longer serve us. So that's a toughie for me, even. And I'm sure probably for you as well. If you're the type of person who is okay moving on from a relationship that no longer serves you, kudos to you. But I feel like for most of us, it's kind of like a bit tough to move on from people who just no longer vibe with us anymore. We're no longer in alignment anymore. I want to start with like a story that kind of something that happened to me when I was around 10, 11. I used to be the kind of kid who was super smart. I was always top of my class. And I was also pretty cool. So there's a certain teacher who just never really liked me. I have no idea why. Looking back, I'm like, I don't know what she had against a 10-year-old. I mean, it sounds pretty ludicrous. Pretty ridiculous, right? So she just always would pick on me. And it got to a point where I used to be the class prefect. I used to like being the class cop because being a cop meant I could get away with anything. And so she just one day came and demoted me. And I used to have all these friends who at the time I thought were really cool. I was in class 4 for Kenyan purposes. And I used to have these really cool friends who, well, I thought they were cool. When I was a cop, they would give me free food, free drinks, free juice, free chocolate. And I remember when this teacher demoted me, everybody just stopped hanging out with me. And I came from being the popular kid to the kid who no one really wanted to hang out with anymore. It was really sad. Looking back, it's a little funny now that I think about it, but at the time it was really, really terrible. I remember I went to and I cried to my mom and I told her, I want to go back to being a prefect because when I was a cop, everybody loved me. And now that I'm not, everybody hates me, right? And then there's this other kind of like quote unquote class of kids in the class who are pretty like easy creatives. I would consider them as creatives now in our day and age. At the time, they were just kind of a little bit weird. But they were like, hey, come hang out with us. And I had been in that school for like 4 years. And I started hanging out with them for only like a period of 6 months before I had to transfer and go to another school. And looking back, I think choosing to hang out with this other kind of like crowd of kids was probably the best 6 months that I had ever experienced in that school. The reason I'm bringing this up is because something as impactful that happened to me at that age would kind of like set the stage for the type of friendships and relationships that I would get into as I became a teenager, as I was in my early 20s, in my mid 20s, in my late 20s, and now I'm in my early 30s, right? I realized there was a pattern that I took from that. There's a kind of hurt that I carried even across high school where I always wanted to hang out with like the quote unquote popular kids. And I never wanted to hang around people who I felt were like authentic or like real. I just wanted like the flamboyance of saying so-and-so is my friend. And this went on even after high school. And I think after high school is when it was the most potent because now I just wanted to hang out with I wanted to hang out with cool kids who are also rich kids, right? So that I say so-and-so is my friend. I hang out with so-and-so's kid or whatever. It's pretty surface level now that I think about it. But at the time, it was like I used to friend up, like how people like level up in friendships in society. Like I used to hang out with people who like you had to offer something to me for you to be my friend. or you had to have a certain look, you had to talk a certain way, you had to come from a certain type of family for you to be like my boyfriend or the guy I'm dating or whatever. Um, and then it got to a point where my friends would go to, and we were really young. Like first of all, none of us even has like their own money, right? So we're using mommy and daddy's money or whoever your caregiver is or sugar daddy, whatever. And my friends had like, we used to live a really crazy lifestyle. Like every weekend would be, this weekend we are going to this resort in Naivasha. I think everyone has been to that resort for a weekend getaway. And like everyone is gonna changa, like what is changa in English? To oh my word, what is changa in English? It'll come to me. Everyone had to kind of like remove a certain amount of money to kind of get into the kitty of snacks and food and obviously alcohol. And I realized that I always used to go to my mom because I knew my mom would not say no. And I'd be like, Mom, I need 5,000 for this weekend. I need 10,000 for this other weekend. I need. Because I was trying to keep up with the Jonases, right? And my mom would always tell me, you know, Noni, you need to start living within your means and you need to hang out with people who are within your means. And I would hate that because I'm like, but I want to be with the cool kids. I want to take the Instagram stories and the videos, and I want to show people like I have a cool life and, you know, I'm living it up. It's not until I started therapy that I understood that I was trying to fill a void that started somewhere in my childhood that I had no idea where it even came from. And that was a bitter pill to take. I remember even getting mad at my therapist at some point because I was like, you just don't get it. Like, you don't get it. So and so is my best friend and, you know, they get me. And so she asked, well, if they get you so much, then why do you feel so sad? Why do you feel like, you know, you're not being who you really truly are? Like I felt like I had to have like a facade when I'd hang around certain types of people. And just for clarity purposes, these are really cool people. I'm just realizing now that we were just not aligned at all because the foundation of this type of friendships, the foundation of this type of relationships that I was in was from a place of lack, right? It was from a place of perceived alignment and not authentic alignment. So how I know that now is I got to a point when I started my own self-development journey and self-healing journey is when I realized that I'm changing, quote unquote. And some of the things that the people in my life would do, I would just not resonate with anymore. Like, like, like what? Like making someone feel like my worth is in the car I'm driving or my worth is in the apartment I'm living in, right? And I really just started asking deeper questions, what I like to call heavy questions or lengthy questions, where you kind of ask yourself, is this who I really am? I mean, having money is cool, but like, if I didn't have it, where would I get my self-worth from? And I went through a series of life-changing events that basically I was in a space where they always say you know your people, your true people or your community when you're going through something really deep and profound or something really big and successful, like never in between, right? So I went through a time where I lost my job and I just didn't have the funds anymore to go out or hang out with my friends as much. And then I started noticing little acts of um, kind of isolation where I would just see people hanged out and I was just not invited. And then there was this perceived notion of, the great Noni has fallen. And I embraced a season of vulnerability, and a season where I had to dig deeper into who I really am. And I feel sometimes the universe kind of sends you this really deep um, events that kind of allow you to dig deeper into who you really are and stop living like very surface level type, moments or experiences. So that's the time when I um, even had to move out of my apartment. I had to live with my sister. And looking back, it was really like a very, like, it was lucid. Because on one hand, I was living with my family that I absolutely adore. But on the other hand, I felt completely alone. And I realized that there's some people in my life who actually rejoiced at the fact that I wasn't doing as well as I was used to, right? I was always the one who everything was in check, personality, confidence, everything. And now I'm weak, I'm vulnerable. And it was like a space to just kind of like, it's kind of like when when a leader kind of falls and the number two takes position and now the leader is out. That's just kind of how it felt at the time. And then another time when my life became really, really good, I was doing really, really well. And I started realizing some, kind of pebble like events where the people around me were just not celebrating me as much as I would celebrate them. Like, for instance, even starting like a podcast, right? You'd imagine your day ones are like, oh my God, we're super excited for you. We wish you all the best. I was even joking with my team behind the scenes how, as we grow, we're gonna have like a full production team, makeup, hair, snacks, a mixologist, on ground, the whole shebang. And you realize that these are just people who just start distancing themselves around you when you start doing well. And it's usually like tiny little comments like, oh, so now you think you're the shit, or oh, so nowadays she doesn't talk to us anymore because she's doing this, that, and the other. Or if you fall, they're like, oh, she thought she's high and mighty, or he thought he's, the man or the don. So it's just this tiny, small, pebble-like events that kind of like grew and grew and became rocks. And I could just no longer continue being in relation with this kind of people anymore. They were tapping into my energy. And I just felt like I was a different person around them all the time. And I think one of the questions that my therapist and my sister always asked me or would ask me is, what exactly are you getting from these people that you're so into? I used to date this guy who I would say, he's tall, he's dark, he's handsome, he's good looking, he has a good job. And I was like, okay, is that it? Is that all you're interested in him about? And I realized that there's something in me that is attracting these people because there's a part of me that doesn't feel like I can get like a worthy or a truly authentic relationship or friendship, right? And so when I started doing the work on myself, I started leaning into these very uncomfortable emotions that I was getting. And I started creating healthy boundaries for myself. A good way of creating a healthy boundary is stating, I'm going to try and see if I don't communicate with this person, are they going to communicate back? Like, I want to see if our friendship or if a relationship I'm in is reciprocal, right? That's a very healthy way of knowing if someone is for you or they're basically in the area, just because you're helping them do something, right? So that's one of the true kind of like boundaries I had to put for myself. Is this relationship or friendship reciprocal? And if they were in a rut, would I show up for them? If I was in a rut, would they show up for me? Another really good way of knowing someone who's there for you is I think it's Steve Harvey who says this in his show. He says, if you really want to know someone who is there for you, think of that one person who will show up in the rain and you're stuck, your tire is bust, you have nowhere to go, and it's 2 a.m. Who's going to come and help you out of your rut, right? Who's going to come and rescue you? Another thing, if you want to know someone who's really, truly there for you, is when you're going through the deepest, darkest time in your life, who feels like a safe space for you? I have this friend of mine who I didn't know how much they like rode for me, like ride and die. I didn't know until he has a funny phrase. So like when you're out in the club, there's a song, no more crying in the club. You know, kind of how like when you go to the club and you're going through emotions, maybe your ex has, your boyfriend has dumped you or whatever, and you start drinking, and you know how like people just start getting emotional in the club and they're like, oh, I should call him. And then everyone's like, no, don't call him. And then they start crying. And it's like, no, man up or woman up, take 2 shots, like no crying in the club, right? So we have that like phrase, no crying in the club, because like you're messing our vibe. Like we're here for a good time, not for tears and stuff like that. So I remember there's a time I was going through the most. And we were out in one of the restaurants in Nairobi. And I think my friend noticed that I'm not okay. And I was trying really hard, to put a brave face, to have fun. But like my energy was just off. And he was like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm chilling. We're enjoying ourselves. Don't worry about me. You go on doing you. And then I think he looked at me and he was like, I think you need a hug. And I remember the moment he hugged me, like my tears just started running out. And I'm like, I'm trying not to cry in the club. And he was like, no, it's fine. Like you can just go ahead and just release whatever pain that, you're feeling or you're going through right now. Like me being here for you is more important than a silly phrase that, we use for us to have fun, right? And it sounds really silly, but at that moment in time, I felt so validated by him because I felt like he saw me, he was there for me. He understood my predicament, and he gave me the space where I said, I'm not in a space to tell you what's happening right now. I just want to go home. And I remember he called an Uber for me, made sure I got home safe, called me, are you tucked in bed? Are you good? And it was like, let's go have lunch tomorrow. Let's talk about whatever it is that's disturbing you. And I think that whole experience made me realize that I didn't have safe friendships and safe relationships like that. Like I felt very open, very vulnerable, and very cared for. And I felt like the people I was around were not providing that type of space for me. And it might be selfish of me to say that because I know some of the people who I know are going to watch this and think, but we've been there for you. But it was just different. It was a different feeling. And I think it's because I just got to a space where I started embracing vulnerability And sometimes when you embrace vulnerability and you express that to someone who is not emotionally tapped into their own like kindness or compassion or humanity or empathy, they're not going to relate. And I think that's what I was missing in my friendships or in my relationships. I was always trying to be the person who just has everything going on together. And we just never created a space for just being human, you know? Um, so yeah, so I felt like that's something that made me kind of like view that friendship differently from the type of friendships that I was used to having. So I would say that's also another way to kind of just feel or realize who is really there for you when you go through a very deep, vulnerable moment where you don't even have to express. Because I feel sometimes friendships or relationships, and when I say relationships, I mean like a love type relationship, right? Sometimes I feel like people kind of like feel compelled to like let you tell them what exactly it is that you're feeling. Like, tell me what's the situation? How can I help you? Like they're already in solution mode. And sometimes you just need to say that I don't want to talk about it. I just need you to be here for me. I just need you to show up and just create space for me. And I think knowing someone who's truly there for you is someone who's gonna respect your boundaries and say, I may not understand what you're going through right now, but I'm gonna create space for that. And whenever you're ready, come and, chat with me if you want to. And if you don't want to, I still understand and you're still gonna be, my day one or my friend or my girl or whatever. And I think one of the things that I lacked is I always felt pressured to tell someone what I'm going through. And like already they're in solution mode. You should do this and you should do that and you should da 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 da. And I'm like, I just need you to just like create space, like just create space for my emotion. Let's not go into solution mode. Stop giving me advice, unsolicited at that, and just show up for me. And I realized most of the people who I was surrounding myself with, they didn't know how to create space for themselves. And so it was kind of crazy for me to ask them to do that when they can really do that for themselves, you know? So when you move on, when you get to a place where you're like, okay, this is no longer serving me. We're no longer in alignment. You're cool people, but I just feel like we're just not, like in alignment. Our chakras are not chakraing. We're just not, our energy is just off. Now it's time for me to just take a step back and realize what exactly it is that I want as a person. There's a void that comes. And it's really easy to start feeling that void with alcohol or drugs or binging. I remember I used to Uber Eats all the time. Like I went for a whole month. I didn't even make like an egg. It was just too much. It was too much energy for me to even like, I think even I don't know, I would just like get into this like very binge like type activities to fill that void. And I think how I got out of that is giving myself a lot of empathy, a lot of kindness, a lot of compassion, a lot of affirmative phrases and words like, I am enough. This is for my good. Journaling helped me a lot. Doodling helped me a lot. And also there's this phrase in therapy where you kind of go back and like mother your inner child. So I kind of started picturing what's the pattern that was coming from this. And I remembered the 10-year-old Noni who was abandoned by her group of friends. And I went back and I kind of like sat with her. Obviously, in my mind, you're envisioning this. And I sat with her and I asked her, are you going to be okay? just ditching these people and looking for people who truly want to hang out with you, not because you're a prefect, not because you're the cool kid, not because you're they're giving you gifts, but they just want to be your friend because they just want to have a connection with you. So are you going to be okay with hanging out with these people who gave you that? You remember I had mentioned there's the other kind of like cool creative kids who brought me into their fold. And I told myself, yeah, I think my 10-year-old self responded and she was like, yeah, I mean, I think they created a safe space for me. So I think that this is the type of people who I kind of want to hang out with. I said, okay, then we're good. Then we're good. And I think that kind of healed that little 10-year-old void that I had at the time with a lot of compassion and grace and kindness that I gave to myself. And I think I was able to heal that energy that was off, that was misaligned. And now I'm in a space where um, I allowed the void to be. I tapped into that uncomfortable space and I'm now meeting new people. I'm more open to talking about my stories. I never used to open up to anyone. Anyone. I don't even think my friends even thought I had feelings, to be quite honest. I think there's a lot of strength in vulnerability. I think it's cool. There's a TikTok where I watched this lady. She said she goes to restaurants, she journals her feelings, and she cries in public. And I was thinking to myself, I could never, ever. And then I was like, but like, why not though? I think it's beautiful to show emotion. I think we hide so much. And I just got to a place where I was just tired of hiding. I was tired of feeling like I have to show up already made, already done. Like I am imperfect and I'm embracing that. And I think embracing that has given me a lot of strength, a lot of courage, a lot of confidence to attract the people who I'm aligned to. And I think it's a beautiful journey. I remember, I don't know if you remember, I had my 3 words. They always anchor me: bold, deeper, and fun, where I allow myself to have this type of deep conversations. And even if a friend of mine who comes, watches this, and they're like, but Noni, I thought we were good. I thought we were perfect. Like, I'm in a space where I can be like, yeah, let's have the conversation. And we can have the conversation to, oh, I have an amazing example. I have a recent friend who we sat down and we discussed our issues. We hadn't talked to each other for a very long time. We discussed our issues. We were very, very vulnerable with each other. I even cried in front of her. And I think she was so shocked because she was like, I have never, ever, ever seen you cry. Like ever, ever. Like I used to be a stone. And I apologized for my part in making her feel like she wasn't validated as a friend. And she apologized for her part in calling me mean and all this not so good words that she used to describe me. And we just got to a space where we decided, I think we're just going in such different directions that it's okay for us to just be okay. We don't have to be doing, I don't know, brunch every Sunday, WhatsApps every Tuesday morning. Like we're just good. Like you live your life, I live my life. And I'm going to cheer for you in the background. And I think that was such a healthy way of uncoupling our friendship. And I think that's the healthiest breakup I've ever had, ever in my life. I think most of the time I was just used to cutting people off, like cut it and I'm done and I'm gone. But then now I'm leaning into releasing with kindness, having these conversations that I don't want to have, but we need to have. I'm leaning more into just being, and not always doing things, always being busy doing things. I'm leaning more into letting my friends know or my partner know my boundaries, and also asking them what are their boundaries, and coming to like a conclusion, like where we can be able to, kind of co-create together, as opposed to feeling like I have to overstep, I have to give my all to you, and it's non-reciprocal. And I've taken accountability for the things that I did, for the parts that I played, for the people I took advantage of. Um, I think I have a friend who honestly I've been taking advantage of this person for so long because of what they can offer me. And I really don't feel like I offered much in return. So I took accountability for that and I apologized to this person. And they said, actually, Noni, thank you because you were getting a bit, annoying. So it's also taking accountability for your part in breaking a friendship or a relationship and understanding that they're just they're just more important and deeper things in life than having an amazing car or living in an amazing apartment or Instagrammable type experiences. I think it's more worthy to align yourself with people who share your values, whatever your values are. If you believe in God, if you believe in kindness, if you believe in humanity, I feel like that's a better way to associate with people. And you can only create a foundation with someone else with something that you have. So you can't attract. It's like the law of attraction isn't like think and it comes. No, you attract who you are, right? Um, so I feel like that's a really good way that and a healthy way that I was able to uncouple from some of these friendships and relationships that had me on a hold for so many years. And also speaking to people who are your safe space, who want the very best for you. So yeah, I mean, I really hope that that kind of helps you to break open. I think a breakup is an opportunity for you to break open. And there's a phrase, you can only go to the light through the darkness. So I know it's cliche, but a lot of this cliche stuff works. It's worked for me. And I used to be the type of person who would question everything. I would question everything until it got to a point where I'm like, this questioning thing is not working for me anymore. I need something that is actually going to work for me. And yeah, I hope that some of the stuff that I've talked about will be able to help you uncouple from friendships who are friends who are not there for you, friends that are draining your energy, friends who abuse you, or even relationships that are abusive mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Also taking a lot of accountability for the stuff that you have going on, and also getting some help if you feel like you're not able to do it by yourself. I think getting help is the most bravest thing that you can ever do for yourself. It's the hardest and it's the most life-changing thing you'll ever do for yourself. So, yeah. And you're going to be a better person after it, and you're actually going to attract people who are actually there for you, And it's going to be amazing. I'm still learning how to make new friends. It's the hardest thing ever, but I'm very easy with myself. I laugh a lot, and I allow people to talk more, and I listen. I listen a lot nowadays, consciously so. And yeah, I just allow space for people to be who they really are. And I like to smile to people because it's just a way of showing that, hey, I see you and I hope you see me. I hope. And even if you don't, it's okay. And I'd love to know if this helps you in any way when you're uncoupling from relationships that just no longer serve you. And I know that this is more like a self series type. We're gonna go deeper into even relationships in the workplace, relationships like at a club, and I don't mean a club like party, like a membership club, relationships in church or religious spaces, relationships in affiliations like politics, etc. But today, I just wanted to relationships to your family. That's a hard one. That's a tough one. But yeah, today I just wanted to just do a very easy type opener to kind of open your eyes, stir your soul a little bit, and really, really ask yourself if you're truly showing up for your friends or your partner. And also, if it's vice versa, is your partner or are your friends showing up for you the way you deserve to? And in conclusion, if you love yourself, then it's very easy to give love to others. And if you truly believe that you deserve love, then you can give love. And when you give love, you receive love. I haven't been Dr. Feeling y'all too much, but yeah, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode, to watch it as well. And peace. Up until the next one. Deuces. My name is Nani Mugara, and this is the Plunge Podcast. Bye.